On Christmas Eve in 1945, a fire destroyed the Sodder family home in Fayetteville, West Virginia. George and Jenny Sodder lived there with 9 of their 10 children. When the fire broke out, George, Jenny, and 4 of the children escaped, but 5 of the children were never found. For the rest of their lives, the surviving family members believed those 5 had survived the blaze rather than died in it. Instead of rebuilding the house, the Sodders turned the site into a memorial garden for the missing children. In the 1950s, as their doubts about the official explanation grew, they erected a billboard nearby displaying the children's photographs and offering a reward for information that could solve the mystery. The sign remained in place until shortly after Jenny Sodder's death in 1989. The family pointed to several strange details surrounding the fire to support their belief that the children had lived. George rejected the fire department's conclusion that faulty wiring caused the blaze, noting the home had recently been rewired and inspected. He and Jenny suspected arson and even considered the possibility that the children had been abducted, perhaps connected to George's outspoken criticism of Benito Mussolini and the fascist regime in his native Italy. Further investigations by state and federal authorities in the early 1950s produced no definitive answers. However, in the 1960s, the family received what they believed might be a photograph of one of the missing boys as an adult. Over the decades, their last surviving daughter, Sylvia, along with later generations of the family, continued to draw public attention to the case through media coverage and online discussions. Background: Georgi Sodder, born Giorgio Sadu in Sardinia, Italy, in 1895, immigrated to the United States as a teenager. He eventually settled in West Virginia, where he worked on the railroads before starting a successful trucking business hauling construction materials and coal. In 1992, he married Jenny Cipriani, another Italian immigrant, and the couple later established their home near Fayetteville in a 2-story house north of town. They raised 10 children there and became a well-known and respected middle-class family in the community. George was known for his strong opinions, especially his vocal opposition to Mussolini, which sometimes led to heated arguments within the local Italian immigrant community. By 1945, their youngest child, Sylvia, had been born, while their second oldest son was serving in World War II. Not long before the fire, a life insurance salesman allegedly warned George that his house would go up in smoke and that his children would be harmed, blaming his anti-Mussolini remarks. Around the same time, another visitor commented oddly on the home's fuse boxes. Despite the recent rewiring, and the older Sodder sons noticed a suspicious car watching the younger children on their way home from school in the weeks leading up to Christmas. The Christmas Eve fire in the evening of December 24, 1945, the family celebrated Christmas. After the younger children received gifts, they were allowed to stay up later than usual. Around 12:30 a.m., Jenny was awakened by a phone call from an unfamiliar woman asking for someone she did not know. Shortly after returning to bed, she noticed the lights were still on and assumed the children who had stayed up had gone upstairs to sleep. About half an hour later, she heard a loud thump on the roof, followed by a rolling sound, then fell back asleep. Around 1:30 a.m., she awoke again to the smell of smoke and discovered that a fire had started in George's office, near the fuse box and telephone line. George and Jenny quickly woke their older children. They, along with 4 of the children, managed to escape, but the stairway to the attic where the other 5 children were believed to be sleeping was already engulfed in flames. Attempts to rescue them failed. The ladder that was usually kept against the house was missing, the water barrel outside was frozen, and both of George's trucks refused to start, even though they had worked the day before. The phone line was also dead, forcing a neighbor to try to contact the fire department. By the time firefighters arrived the next morning, the house had burned to the ground. Fire officials later told the family that no remains had been found in the ashes, although the blaze was officially ruled an accident caused by faulty wiring. Death certificates for the 5 missing children were issued soon after. Doubts and aftermath. The Sodders soon began questioning the official explanation. They noted that the Christmas lights had reportedly remained on during the early stages of the fire, which seemed inconsistent with an electrical fault. The missing ladder was later discovered some distance away from the house, and a telephone repairman reportedly informed them that the phone line had been cut rather than burned. Jenny also doubted the claim that the fire had completely destroyed the children's bodies, pointing out that household items and even parts of the roof had survived in recognizable form. She consulted a crematorium worker, who told her that human bones typically remain even after extremely high temperatures and prolonged burning. Other unusual reports added to the mystery. A bus driver claimed to have seen people throwing balls of fire at the house that night, and after the snow melted, a small rubber-like object resembling an incendiary device was found nearby. Several witnesses later claimed to have seen the missing children with unfamiliar adults in the days following the fire, though none of these accounts were verified. Continuing investigation in 1949, the Sodders arranged a new excavation of the site, which uncovered a few small bone fragments, later identified as human vertebrae, from someone older than most of the missing children and showing no signs of fire damage. The findings deepened rather than resolved the mystery. Subsequent state hearings and an FBI inquiry failed to produce conclusive results, and the case was eventually closed at the official level. The family continued to investigate independently, distributing flyers, following up on sightings across the country, and pursuing leads for decades. In 1967, they received a photograph of a man in his 30s who resembled Lewis, one of the missing boys, along with a cryptic note. A private investigator was hired to pursue the lead, but never reported back. George Sodder died in 1969, still searching for answers. Jenny lived in mourning for the rest of her life, tending the memorial garden at the site of their former home. After her death in 1989, the billboard that had long publicized the case was finally taken down. Even into the 21st century, surviving family members and later generations continued to publicize the story and investigate new leads. While some researchers believe the children likely died in the fire, the unusual circumstances and unresolved questions have kept the case one of America's most enduring unsolved mysteries.